It worked for me enough to where I've done $1 billion book of business easily and taken a very large market piece in a company. The first part of it really comes down to is this. When you are entering a room, the first thing you have to be careful about is how you're dressed, because first impressions are everything. Is that correct? Right? Where a lot of people screw up on is they care more about their individual brand and style when it comes to these things, and they don't realize that that is actually a pride issue as opposed to a need necessity. Let me tell you what I mean by that. When I walk into a meeting for a government person or an official, I know that the attire there is going to be suit and tie and going from there. For the men out there that are listening, a very important aspect is buy a suit and get it custom tailored. Spend the extra $100, go from there, get it sized to fit you. You don't have to have a ton of suits. Definitely have a black suit or a gray suit, but have some traditional colors there that you can wear universally, but spend the money on the suit, because the suit, people will tell you when they look at it, it is an investment and you can use it as a deduction. So everyone's on the same page. And you can use that as a deduction when you have a suit, because people will tell individually if you're serious, what you're serious, and the quality of that suit is, right? That's the very first investment I make any of my interns buy. Go buy a suit, make sure it doesn't look terrible, but you never know when you need to use that suit. And if you take it to a tailor to customize an alternate, there are little hacks and trades that you can do to make that suit better, but that's extremely important. Number two is if you are sitting at an event. So when I hosted the ESPYs party, I wasn't sure what kind of, suit I was going to wear because I had to make an impression. It was a combination of here are professionals, I'm trying to be cool, trying to work from there, but there's always that balance, right? You don't want to be overdressed or underdressed. Here's a general rule. You can never be overdressed. You can only be underdressed. So when you go into any meeting and your mindset, be overdressed, not underdressed. That makes a solid impression on how you work, how you discuss, how you talk to people. That's extremely important. By doing that, you establish yourself in a way where people know you and there's a first impression. Whatever that first impression you're trying to give off, you have to think very, very calculated in how you're doing this. This goes down to, I'll tell you how this is. Your nails, if your shoes are shined, if your belt has, you lost some weight or gained some weight, the actual holes in the belt buckles, if they're overly expanded, if your clothes are ironed, if you have those type of things when you are giving out your business card. I invested, $300, $200 into an LV card holder because people want to see that. When I go and have important deals, I have a Mont Blanc pen. I am very calculating the type of watch I wear down to, what kind of cufflinks I'm wearing. And that's how you separate. Even the socks I wear are important. And what happens is it gives you a transformation and idea of the type of person that you are. And if you think about it, first impressions are everything when you meet anybody. You look at them and your assumption is that there are certain people or they're a certain which way or something of that sort. And the reality is you don't know that until you know them personally. But if you notice when someone walks in a room and you're gravitating, we talk about energy and energy suckers and things like that, that impression that you walk in there, that's what makes a difference between people wanting to work with you and not. So I hate saying that the appearance is extremely important, but getting those things done, eyebrows, things like that, they really do matter in business. I'm telling you guys straight up. If you don't know where you're trying to get into a networking session, you can always Google it. And if you don't know from that point on, again, be overdressed. You can always take off, you can never put on. That has to be your concept. Take off, put on. When you walk in a business meeting, I told you guys this, when I was about 26 years old, I was in a meeting with a guy, I was in which I club in Scottsdale. Was a friend of mine until now. And that's when I learned what a manicure was. I didn't think men, did manicures 15 years ago. And he said to my partner at the time, he said, wow, that's a really nice manicure, right? People look at you individually to see where your upkeep is, but it's not just there. If you're walking together to go to dinner, your car has to be clean. The inside of your car has to be clean. You have to do this because what people are doing is when they look at your cars and look at things like that, they start to double check and see what type of person. If someone sees a really messy car, their assumption is, yeah, okay, the outside's clean, but the inside isn't clean. So there's some sort of laziness or there's lack of care or lack of organization. That's what people see, right? When they look at the pens and you're carrying around a big pen, you don't even have a pen ready. What kind of working professional doesn't have a pen, right? What kind of working professional doesn't have that? These are all simple elements that help close the deal, but appearance is always the first one. You can't help your physical appearance, the way you look, something like that, but you can definitely help yourself in those type of things. That's on a professional level. Number two, this is an investment. If you are going something cool, like when I'm in esports, I think I mentioned to you guys, I wear hoodies and jeans and J's and kind of go from there. When I was Gary, I had to try to figure out the in-between stuff like that. You have to research so you don't feel out of place, and you have to research because when you're doing something like that, you have to be quote unquote in style. Doesn't mean you have to spend the money that's there, but you have to have the style, because what is the image that you're trying to do that? When I'm on my TV shows in Asia, you know, I wear different clothes, right? If I'm doing my eSport network, I'm wearing something else. If I'm sitting there and I'm getting interviewed at Forbes, I'm wearing something else. But when I'm sitting there and actually hosting my events, I'm wearing eSport gear, right? You have to be part of the crowd. And if you guys ever seen it when you walk around in a convention or something else, there's a dude that looks like he's not really in place, and you're kind of like, why are they here type of scenario. You don't want to be that person. You don't want to have that. So that impression is so significant. And we call this peacocking. Does everyone understand what that means, peacocking? Did you nod your head, Jess? So peacocking is a way that you're sitting there and you're showing yourself off so that you can stand out. Obviously, it's easier for me because I'm a 6'4" Chinese guy, but most other people aren't necessarily 6'4" Chinese, but that's how you're going to sit there and stand your appearance from anything else. Even your business cards. Spending the extra 25 cents for a card tells people that you care and that there's a certain amount of success. Those things matter. I'll tell you what doesn't matter. Wearing those giant Gucci belts, wearing those giant, you know, god awful. I mean, I have Gucci belts, but things that are so big and so, oh my God, in your face, that people are looking at you and say, wait, this is a wrong thing, right? Those are the things that matter to stand out. So if you're sitting and networking with 500 people, how are you going to stand out? It's those impressions. Have you ever gotten a business card and you're like, wow, this is a really cool business card, and you kind of keep it and you go from there? Something as simple, spending the extra dollar makes that difference. So you have to be aware of that. You have to be conscientious of how your appearance is, because most people, when you're doing networking, will write you off within the first time they see you, and they'll definitely write you off within the first 2 minutes. That's psychological truth. So you have to work and act that way. One of my best meetings I ever had was I researched. There was a guy, one of my partners, Mike, you know, he had praying beads, Shambhala beads. So when we're sitting down talking, I identified something with them. We talked about that. And I said, wow, this is great. You have these beads. You know, we started talking about that. So we talked about spirituality and things like that way before we talked about business. In fact, the first meeting wasn't any business. Now he's my business partner, right? You have to connect. You have to connect in a way where that makes sense. If you can't connect, there is no interest, there is no emotion. And I don't care if you're selling your product, I don't care if you're selling yourself, I don't care if it's a new business, you know, a new company, Mike, or John, you're trying to make a sell. You have to connect with that individual. And what everyone does wrong is they sell first and they don't connect first. We talk about that, the connecting part of it, finding something that's in common. So like this weekend, I was the producer of American Idol, Rhonda Shea. And the first thing I told him was like, I'm from Texas. He's from Texas, right? So we talk about Texas boys. We talk about how, you know, Texas love and how Texans think differently because he's out in California. You see what I did? I associated correlation with him, and that correlation set me apart from everybody else, right? Does anybody have any questions about this particular thing I'm saying? Or needs more clarification? No? Okay, cool. That's great. When you're entering that room and you're trying to go from there and you have to, what is your energy? Just like you can tell a nervous dog walking in, and just like you can tell when people are nervous on a date, and just like you can tell when people are nervous in new business, you are there for a reason. You belong there. A lot of it is appearance and the way it looks. So what I like to do is my hack is I like to pre-establish what I'm going to wear the night before. So I don't spend 40 minutes trying to figure out what I'm going to wear the day before. That's lack of preparation. And then things happen, right? You're running late, so then, or you're sitting in your clothes and it's not working right. I tell you this matters because that to me has helped me a lot with deals and successes and doing those type of things, right? when you're going in there, you have from there, your energy has to be high and positive, but not annoying. Does that make sense? It can't be annoying. You see those people who are like, hey, what's going on? And you're like, Jesus, that was so annoying, right? Read the room. Just like I tell you guys, study, educate, check the backgrounds of whoever you're looking at, social media. When you're walking into the room, read the environment of the room. Read how everyone is. Pay attention. Are there more men? Are there more women? What are they wearing? Who looks important? I call it, I identify all the people around me. I don't assume, I identify, and I'm watching who's talking to who and who I know before I say anything. And I go from there. And that's when I just walk up to everybody. I'm like, hey, I'm David, nice to meet you. What do you do for a living? Usually it hits 90% of the time, 10% of the time it doesn't hit. That's just because they're jerks, right? So I just move on. But that's how you identify a networking bill. Every single one of you are selling something. Every single one of you are part of something that is sales. So to establish yourself, to go from there, the only way you can make money now, outside of networking and social media, like I've been trying to preach, is when you actually have these events, you network. You have to look at these events as an investment. But where people go wrong is when they have these events, they don't come back with meaningful relationships and meaningful messages. And therefore, it ends up becoming a major issue because it doesn't work out the way it should. Right? You just get a bunch of cards, you throw them away, and you go from there. That doesn't help, right? That's a waste of your time. Does that make sense? Efficiency, which leads into the next part. We talked about efficiency, but I want to go deep dive into efficiency. Efficiency, when I talk to you guys about it, I'm like, you know, how I check my emails and I can do 100 different things. And I know you guys follow me on my story. You're like, dude, how does David doing this all day long? Obviously, I don't sleep that much. I'm, 5 to 7 hour a day sleeper and kind of go from there, right? But what helps me is I'm pre-planning what I'm doing. So in my mind, I already know that I'm going to do this thing and this is due by this date, right? And I go from there. Let's give you some examples. Everyone's eating at a restaurant. If you ever worked in a restaurant, you know what I'm going to talk about, right? The appetizer gets made while the main course is getting made, while you're already getting your drinks, right? And then some other chef is making, the vegetables that come with it, and simultaneously all comes together. That's how I think about business. So for Mike, I know you're in Phoenix probably by now, and Danny, who's thinking about your business, and Jess and John, you have to think about how to correlate. Let me give you an example of what I'm talking about. Here at downtown, what we had to do this week was, I'll give you a better one. My dad got in a car accident 2 days ago. And when we were pulling up to the thing, yes, he's okay, thanks for asking. When we pulled up his thing, we had to replace his tires. So of course, we're showing up, and what happens? There's 4 tires there. They have to replace them with the spare that's there. And of course, the rim is dent, right? I want you guys to think carefully what you would do in that situation. If you have to replace the tires and the rim is dent, how would you handle this? What I did, and I'd explained to the person that's helping me, I said, get that change first. And when you're getting that tire change, because they didn't have the rim available, go on Amazon and order it simultaneously. So it's going to get here by the time the 4 tires are done. We take it to get the axles checked. And when it gets here, we can put the car together and the car can be used. Where people screw up is they do one step by one step by one step, and you don't visualize and pre-think the process. And that's the process where people really think about. Does that make sense? So if you don't think about the process, what happens? You're doing this and all of a sudden you forget this part, right? Entrepreneurs, yes or no? Or you're doing this and you forget that part, right? And what ends up happening is you end up looking bad as opposed to looking good. And that's why you start messing up, because then you're focused on that one bad thing than everything else. That to me is the key pivotal point when you're doing something is, are you thinking of the marketing side? Are you thinking of the supply chain management side? Are you thinking about your appearance side, what you're trying to push in branding, so everything can come up? For those of you who are ambassadors, downtown spaces, or help push it out, which is everybody, I appreciate you guys. If you notice, we had a couple meetings, brand ambassadors are talking about it, and now we're trying to get bigger people. But you know why we did that? Because for the first 3 weeks, we were trying to test our staff to make sure they understood things before that went through. And just like I know this month will probably be a loss for me, I've already pre-anticipated saving money so I can get through this month and next month to pay the bills. I'm thinking ahead. I'm visualizing what I need to do. What most people do is they think it's so simple and easy, and they don't put in the investment and time to understand and split that strategy. So they get caught up, and then you end up wasting more time trying to fix the problem as opposed to already having everything simultaneously launched. That efficiency is key in business. So as we're having this discussion, right, I have an event in 25 minutes, right? What do I have to do? I've already sent Newt out to get the food, to start the grill, to go from there, right? Katie's doing a photo shoot downstairs, so she knows her time has to hit by a certain time. I have to leave by a certain time. And if I didn't command all those things simultaneously and multitask, that's the word, what will happen is she'll be back, I'll be back. I'm already pre-warning her 45 minutes at a time saying, hey, we're gonna have to leave at this time because so-and-so is gonna be here by that time. Does that make sense? That's extremely important. The other thing is politeness, is scanning the room. You don't know the person you're talking to could be the owner's mother, the owner's father, the owner's best friend. It could be the person, it could be his legal counsel, hell, it could be his significant other. Where people make mistakes with us is they walk in a room, they don't do their research, and even though they know who Katie is, they don't say hi to her. We're trying to impress people, right? You saw it with me that day, John didn't get a chance to be here, but everyone else, I was saying hi to Danny's significant other, right? I was saying hi to Lily's significant other, and I was talking to them. That energy that I put in and the way I was talking to everyone and making feel everybody included, that's what you have to do. Where things get cut off is I'm just talking to John because I'm trying to get John's business, and then his significant other is getting blown off, and she's just like, and so John looks at his significant other and realizes she's annoyed, and he's like, hey, I gotta wrap it up. That's a terrible impression because your significant other helps push the impression, right? The person you're with, your friend, they'll sit there and say, well, what'd you think about that person? When you go on a date, you get hit on. What'd you think about that guy? What'd you think about that girl? You do it every single day, but in business, it's more impactful. So when you show up and people aren't doing that, I'm like, what are you thinking? Why are you not networking, communicating with everyone? You don't know the significance of these people. So everyone is significant. So you have to respect everyone the same way you would respect Gary if you walked in their room. And the reason my relationship with D-Rock is so strong and some of the other guys on his team is because I always talk about how I talk to everyone. But when I mean I talk to everyone, I mean, you saw me there, I legitimately talk to everyone. New people, old people, whatever it is. We talk, we chit chat. We want to be part of it. This is a very important skill set in sales. The significant other makes a big influence on them. The friends make influence on people. You all know what I'm talking about, right? So if you want that to happen with you, you're going to want that to happen. People are going to want that to happen when you're trying to do sales. And that's a big part, right? So we talk about efficiency, the way you dress, the way you act. Let me make sure there's, okay. When we had our first session, I mean, it's a mentor session. Some people weren't dressed appropriately. Why put yourself in that position, right? You have to think about that. You can't be overly sexy. You can't be overly one way. You have to be neutral and smart about it. But that's a business mentality. Like we talked about last week, think like a boss, not like a worker. And if you're a boss, how are you representing yourself right now out there in the world, not just on social media, but when you actually meet people? That's the $1 million question. And that's what's going to make the difference between making it work and not making it work and being efficient on that and moving forward. Are there any questions about that? You guys sure? All right. Now we're going to talk about what's your point. Why are you talking to this person? What is your objective? If you're in sales, John, if you're in sales, Rudy, if you're in sales, Jess, your objective is to make a sale. Danny, if your objective, or Ashley, is to meet people and grow your business, that is your objective. Don't forget your objective. You are here for business. I told you guys a story about the stragglers who hang out till 3 a.m. And those are people that I know that are not important, right? But when you're talking to someone, especially a celebrity, how I interact with celebrities, and I know you guys see my social media, like they're bigger, the names are getting bigger, they're getting bigger. I hit the point. What do you want from me? Think about what I just said. What can I add value to? Today, my most meaningful call was with one of my NFL guys. He brought in another NFL guy, and I told him we were going to help his esports team and air them in Asia. You know what I wanted for that? Nothing. You could hear him with his eyes watering and him sitting there and saying, what you guys have taught me over the last month is to give and not expect to receive, but to help, to add value, right? Where it doesn't add value is, like, I'll tell you this, like, I'll tell you, Rudy and Jess do a really great job of this. I put a post up, they just reshare. So I want to thank you guys. Everyone does it, but they do it on a very consistent level. And that helps me add more value because I can sit there and say, oh, maybe there's only 8 people, even though there's 100 people signed up. But the value is they at least care enough to push it through. That's real value, right? Some of you guys, you see I'll like it, I'll comment, I'll share your stuff to add value. Not because I have to, because I want to. So when you're talking to someone in that 2 minutes, what is the point of what you want to do? Well, you're not going to walk up to Mark Cuban and tell him that you want to buy a basketball team or, have him invest in a basketball team if he already owns one, correct? You're not going to go up to someone who's trying to do commercial sales, when they only want to do retail sales. That goes back to your researching. You're not going to sit there and sell a product that they already own, right? You have to care enough about it, just like you care enough when you go on a date and see who this person is. It's the same stuff. You already use that mindset. But the reason your sales aren't hitting is because you're not hitting the person. You don't have the appearance. You don't see what they're working with, what they're rocking with, who they're talking to. Every single one of my meetings, and Lauren will tell you this, I have people pre-write a one-pager of what this person does and what they do and what they don't do. We talk about listening first and understanding what they do for a living and then pushing the sales. That's important. Listen first, understand the environment, study them, and if they already have it, it works, right? This skill set is so significant because where people screw up is they sell something to someone that already owns it, or they try to push things forward that it's a conflict of interest. So then for me, it's like you came to me to do esports, hypothetically, but I own Face Clan. I can't invest in esports. I can't invest in a team. And then they're like, oh, okay, that sounds great, man. They're gone. Where they screwed up on is if they spent 5 more minutes researching on me, they would realize that they could be on, like I have 3 million viewers in Asia every week for our TV shows. I don't know if you guys know that. If you've actually researched it, you would know that I have the most rated show in the world when it comes to esports in Asia. But you don't know that, right? I have to tell you that. That's where people start losing, because when I'm getting pitched things, they're just trying to pitch the one thing and they're not looking at the alternatives. The alternative is at least being a friend, but the best part is what can I add value to? Okay? Now, let's talk about the flex. This is an important one. Does everyone, all right, well, it doesn't matter. I am trying to do something with the city here, which of course you'll all be invited to. But I'm trying to do this very large esports tournament in April with the Sun Bowl, with SMG, with the mayor. And I have known this gentleman, the city manager, for about 5 years. And we've had a very good friendship, And the one thing that he told me was, David, I got to be honest, like, I look at your Twitter and it inspires me. He doesn't make a comment. He doesn't retweet, doesn't like it. He just says it inspires me. And I looked at him and I was like, what? We talked about it last week with Flex Lewis. I was like, what do you mean you follow me? When we had that discussion, we continued it. We maintained our friendship. It wasn't forced. It was kind of like, we talk when we can talk, we got to go from there. Well, I always talk about what is the one thing that is meaningful. We talked about this last week, where if you're going to go get a water and there's your boss and it's something on there, spend the extra $3 to get water. It shows your character. In fact, it's a good habit to have, to be grateful and to be gracious. You don't have to buy lavish gifts. You just have to be thoughtful of what people want, right? When you guys came down here, why do you think we had the drinks and everything else? I was paying for it, but I was trying to be thoughtful. And so you're listening to me for an hour, 2 hours, you're thirsty, right? Same concept, right? I practice what I preach. Are you doing that in sales today? Do you have those connections to flex with those people? If their kid likes, I mean, I'm so old, I'm gonna say Barney. If they like Barney or whatever, right? Hey, I'm older, so I didn't even watch Barney when I was a kid, but you're gonna know that if you did the research in their kid, the key to anyone's heart is their child, So giving a little gift and going from there is not being a butt kisser, it's just showing you care. So when the guy came here, he's a huge Vikings fan. It's a little bit different, but I called my business partner who called Adrian Peterson, he's a football player, sent me a signed autograph jersey and brought it over here. And when he came here, I just gave him the jersey. And he's like, I wasn't expecting this. I said, when we were friends for 5 years, it's the least I can do for all the things you supported me. Now, I genuinely meant that. I really think about how much thought I put into that. I didn't go buy it off of eBay. I really thought about it. I called the guy, I went from there, and I'm pushing for this, but I'm not forcing it where it's so obvious you're trying to kiss my butt, right? But it's nice enough to where I'm sitting there and I know how to do it. You know what I'm talking about, because when people try to brown nose to you, you know if they're kissing your butt or if they really mean it, right? It's how to be genuine. So the reason I talked about with you guys in perspective and everything else is by this time into the weeks, you should be a very genuine person. You should be giving, you should be loving, you should be receiving, you should be understanding. Your ego shouldn't be in the way. And if it is, you guys have to do a hard reset and catch up. It has to be a constant give. I don't care what your situation is. Think about it. Worst day in the world, worst mood. When you can help someone, how good do you feel? Amazing, don't you? Blessed. One thing I've learned in my life is when I see these different funds, there's a kid that needs, my friends, blah, 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 got sick. Can you donate $50, $100? I do it just to do it. I don't do it to share it. I don't do it to anyone else. I give because I want to give. I'm thinking, and I'm hoping that the energy will bring back other good energies. And it doesn't have to be beyond your means. You just have to be thoughtful enough to do that. I talked about how my manager here, Abby, how she got her job. She was very thoughtful. She was very nice about it. She added value to it. That's what you guys have to understand. And it can't be so obvious that you're kissing butt, people make fun of you. If you think someone's gonna make fun of you, then yes, you're kissing butt. But if you think it's smooth enough to go through, then you're not kissing butt. But everyone likes what? Everyone likes someone who's being thoughtful, correct? Those mean the most. Not the price of the gift, it's the thoughtfulness of the gift, the thoughtfulness of the transaction, the thoughtfulness of the action. So with your clients, with your suppliers, with your network, you can do such things like that. That matters. That's what establishes a relationship and going from there. So when that happened, I gave him the gift. The next week, we're on the call with everyone else. And we're talking about everything, and I'm talking about numbers. I'm talking about what they need to hear. And I understood that if I was going to do a very large convention in El Paso, a very large esports convention, what was the thing that the city needed? The city needs money. How does the city make money? They make money off the hotel taxes. So what did I put in my presentation? I talked to them. I said, okay, here's a case study. Here's how many people I will have. Here's my minimum. And all the hotels around here will be filled because of this. Real numbers, right? So the city was like, cool. Then when I was dealing with the Sun Bowl, I said, what do you guys pay for your viewership? $1 million, 3.5 million viewers. I said, for my cost, it's less than $500,000 for 32 million viewers. Value added proposition. I told you about value add, right? This is all in one presentation. Then the third person I talked to was an in-betweener. I wasn't really sure of that person. I was watching her when I was talking. Their facial, this is why I'm so big about having the cameras on. Because I want to see people's faces. I want to see your reactions. I want to study you. As I'm looking at you, I'm actually studying you subconsciously. What things you like, if you're listening, if this makes sense to you, if it doesn't make sense, right? It's all body language. When we get towards the end of the presentation, my price is better. We have the support. I'm the foremost expert in this world. I'm giving them all value-added proposition. I basically are giving you something where you cannot say no. Most people think it's money. It is, right? But a lot of times it's the thoughtfulness. You hook them in with the money, less percentage, less cost, less take, right? Because $2 is better than $0, 4% is better than, if you take 4% is better than 0%, reduce your rates, whatever. That's how you lock in a customer, because that shows that you're not selfish and you care. You're not just trying to sell. Talk about shysters and hustlers. That's the difference. If you're a new brand, like you're trying to put something else, like this specifically is towards Danny's, because I know what you're trying to do. If you can do it, you give a couple of products out there so people can try it, see it, and then you move forward, right? That's what you do. You have to give. You guys came to my session, I had to give you my information and really kind of go in depth and then move from there, correct? That's important. So when that happens, Mike, be safe. We'll talk to you soon. When that happens, you're doing that because, again, you care. I'll tell you where the flex came in. You want to know how meaningful it is? When you hear stories from people and you have to impress a certain person, you have one chip to use. When do you use that chip? So you don't have a ton of money. You don't have a ton of connections. When do you use that one chip to bring them in? Kids' birthdays, significant other's birthdays, wishing a birthday, sending a card. Dude, $5, $10 is a meaningful impact in the people's lives. So remember that. Think about how you get it and how happy that makes you. And that goes beyond the mean of sales. That goes on the mean of caring, which then gets more sales. And we're having this meeting, and I call it Jeremy Roenick, who's one of the greatest hockey players in the world, and my partner. I'm like, hey, Jeremy, I'm doing this proposal. Like in the middle of the call, I'm doing this. And I'm like, can you make a call? And immediately, he's like, his answer was fuck yeah, that was his answer. So I'm trying to do a proposal. And Jeremy hops on with me, and I'm flexing because I know the deputy city manager likes it. And that's him. This guy's a legend. And I'm on this call and he's talking to him and he already knows what to say. And I'm leading him. For you leaders, do you know what the word lead means? I want you guys to Google this, leading a conversation. You ever notice when you're talking to two people, one person says something and the other person knows how to go from there? So I'm leading the conversation. I'm giving you indications like, Jeremy, we're trying to do a proposal for the city of El Paso. Here's the amount of money. You know, we want to do a big event. So I've already told them that this happens, you're going to be able to come on down. And Jeremy is like, yeah, guys, I've never been to El Paso. I'd love to come to El Paso. This is the greatest thing ever, going from there. And he talks to him for 10 minutes. And everyone's face, even one of the guys I mentioned, doesn't like me very much. We had a pass. At the end of that call, big smiles. And he says, man, it's my dad's favorite player. I grew up watching him in Chicago. In fact, I met him twice. It's a guy that for 5 years, a little bit of beef. And then we hang up and I talk to, you know, the city manager and whatnot. And he goes, Dave, that meant the world to me. That's the flex. That's when you use it. Now you can't, can I call him every single time I have a meeting, go from there? No, he's not a puppet, right? I picked and choose when I had to play that card. Right now, if you go on to Brian Urlacher's Instagram, you have 54 Urlacher, you will see him talk about NACL. You go to Jeremy's, you'll see him talk about NACL. You go to Rick Barry's, you'll see him talk about NACL. I have 25 brand ambassadors. Why did I select those three? I had to strategically understand, I talk about efficiency. These three could push this, and they can do this. These other five will push this. These other guys will push this. So why did I say that? Because I knew when I had him push it out on Monday and Tuesday, I knew by Thursday that my partnership, Mark Cuban, which if you want to support me, go ahead and buy a jersey online. It's $25, but a third of it goes to the universities. And it's on 3commas.com. But my flex is what? My flex is, hey, Mark, here's what you're trying to do. Here's where you're trying to go from here. And I'm telling the university I'm working with, who have this limited edition clothing, I want you to tag in Mark. I want you to tag in Mike Chafin. I want you to tag me. I want you to tag NACL and then the university. Why? Because now they're getting free social media presence. Got to think, how are you going to add value to the deal? The deal's done. How do I add existing value? How do I bring the deal back? How do I get Number two, how do I double my sales? That's how you do it. So then when I'm picking and choosing about efficiency, I'm taking the first I do here, my second one is here, my third one is here, my fourth one is here, my fifth one's here. That's how you work around your system. And that's when you know to use it, because it depends on what you're trying to do and where you're at. Does that make sense? Okay. Guys, I have 10 minutes and I really have to leave. But if you have any questions, I'd love to kind of talk to you about that and kind of go from there. All right, Rudy, you can go first.
Dave, I guess I'll start with the first question. Something that I struggle with right now is kind of finding this balance. When I was younger, I used to do a lot of the things that you say when you walk into a room, you kind of talk to everybody. You would try to network with every single person in the room, right? Then I went to a phase that some things happened personally that kind of made me kind of go back into my shell, right? I went to the other extreme. I became that guy that I would walk into a room and I would just observe everybody, right? A couple of things happened a couple of years back that kind of made me realize that I was becoming too sheltered and too into my own self, right? I started kind of bridging that gap and becoming a combination of the two. But something that I always find myself double thinking is that I don't want to be that person when I was younger, that I walked into a room, I was obnoxious, I was that overconfident person that just, I thought I was hot shit and everybody needed to notice me, right? Now I'm kind of cautious of trying to be that person because now I'm aware of what I was when I was younger. I hope that kind of makes sense. So sometimes I find myself limiting the exposure that I bring on myself with other people. Is there like a balance that you kind of strive for? Do you kind of catch yourself if you're overdoing it with your networking? Or am I thinking about it too much? What would you recommend?
Everything in life is a habit, right? And you hear that it takes 3 weeks or 6 weeks to form a habit. For me, it's 30 to 60 days to form a habit, okay? And it has to be consistent. So when you're walking into that room, everybody is insecure. Everybody doesn't know everybody. Everybody, you can see the people that are uncomfortable when they're not saying hi to everybody. But you can also see when you just say, hey, I'm David, nice to meet you. You know, where are you from? That's how I start off everything. Where are you from? Great. Not what do you do? What industry are you in? What do you do? Sounds very different from what industry are you in, right? What do you do? What do I do, right? What industry are you in? I'm seeking that knowledge to understand my environment where we're at. If they're going to talk to me, right? And the hard part is as I'm doing this, I'm still scanning the room and understanding it. You have to realize that everybody in that room is as equally, for the most part, 99% of them are as equally, I don't want to use the word insecure, but definitely are not sure of the environment situation. So guess what? You're on the same playing field as every single person. And that's what you have to realize. When you guys walk into the mentor sessions, besides me, you're in the same playing field as everybody else, right? You all know what's the connection? Oh, we're all here for David's mentor session, right? That's when you guys should maximize it, utilize it. The first time we had that session, everyone talked. No one really talked. The second time I had a session, when there was only like, 10 people here 2 weeks ago, whatever the heck I did that, everyone talked, right? But you have to break out of your comfort zone because it's a habit. If you don't like talking to people, talk to people. You guys realize that when I was 25 years old, I wouldn't even have the guts to go talk to a girl at a bar. Swear to God. I was that uncomfortable with the situation. And it wasn't until I started forcing myself out of that habit that I literally could do that with anybody in business, talk to anybody. I can walk in a room and talk about anything with anyone, right? I have amassed enough knowledge to understand what's going on and everything else. I've educated myself by reading The Economist, like I told you guys to. I've educated myself by understanding all the different sides of things, educating myself. And the reality is, when you're talking about business or anything else, we tell you about the hot topics not to talk about. But there are current situations that involve certain people in your industry that the people in the industry will know. What does that mean? If you're in the car industry, you know that Elon Musk is doing their new roadster. If you're in the fashion industry, you know that Gigi Hadid is about to have a kid. If you're in the sports industry, you know that, what's going on in the playoffs yesterday. The Lakers lost. How do I do that? I watch the news, right? but I know what I'm going to industry. When I go speak, I'll be speaking. I have two speaks. I mean, I think I have two things next week. I'm speaking at one university for one class, and then I'm speaking at a tech conference. What do you think I'm going to talk about? The most updated tech, hot things that I know about that I can specialize in and force the conversation over there. So my point is, you're in the same playing field with everyone else, bud. And so you just have to be you. And if you're uncomfortable with it, you have to make yourself comfortable. That's it. You guys cannot live your lives being uncomfortable. If you are uncomfortable, you have to spend more time doing it to make yourself comfortable. So my interns, Anna, great girl, very uncomfortable talking to people. You know what I made her do? She's recording the news for NACL that's going to air in 115 airports. Look out of your comfort zone. You don't have a choice. It's your job. I didn't do it to be a jerk. I did it because I knew that was lacking in her social skills, right? That's how you do it and you go from there. But remember, you're in the same playing field as everyone else. Everyone's here for the same thing. You're all going to the conference for the same reason. So you're on equal ground. Have the confidence in that and going from there. The ones who are the loudest in the room, dude, they're nobodies. We all know that, right? So that's why you walk in there strategically and smart and make that work. Next question. Come on, guys. No questions ever? John, you have a question? Okay. All right. Well, with no more questions, we're going to wrap it up. But remember what I'm telling you. Know when to use your card. Understand when things have to happen. Understand when you can make things move forward. Understand your environment. But spend the time researching and understanding how that works and what matters. The difference between knowing people and the cells. Why do you think I want to have live sessions? I want to stay till 8 p.m. on Thursday. I work all day. I'm watching you guys, see how different you guys are acting. I told you, we're always studying people. That's what matters. So if you know how to do that, that makes the difference between everything else and closing those deals, and be efficient. Be smart. Think about the long term. Think about how you're working around things. Don't just think about the short term stuff. That doesn't make any money. That doesn't help you guys at all. It doesn't bring back customers. But remember, when you're going out there, you're networking, you're in the same, literally, the same position as everyone else. You deserve to move forward and go from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes total sense. I guess that for me, I guess it's just overthinking it, you know? Like, it's just me just saying, oh, I don't want to be that guy and just dominate the conversation and not let other people interact, you know? But that's just me overthinking the situation. You know?
I've interacted with every one of you guys, and I'll tell you guys, every one of you guys are very cool. You guys are very knowledgeable. You're very easy to deal with. I like talking to you guys, and if you can impress me, I can promise you can probably impress anyone. If that doesn't give you enough confidence, then you just don't have confidence. And I say that, you know, I don't bullshit. I say that with all humility and all honesty. You know what I mean? It matters. And I've been in enough networking events where I can tell people suck or don't suck. You know, there's 10 of you guys on the call initially. That's the truth. You guys don't suck. But now you have to maximize it. You guys aren't being efficient. What I mean inefficient is you're not, I can't be that great of a teacher when you don't have any questions. It's impossible. Be efficient. Ask the questions that you need to know before the next session. Doesn't matter if it's a topic or not. Just ask the question. That's why my running joke is I always hit up Mike, because Mike already has a question, the 4 questions ready to go. But it's for your own knowledge, for your own efficiency, right? You have no reason not to ask me a question. By this time, I mean, I'm like, oh, you came to visit? Like, when Rudy came, I was like, hey, what's up, dude? I was in a meeting. I was like, hey, this is Rudy. Didn't even know the people's names. I knew your name. And I was like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then I thought you were here. So I was like, oh, do you want to just come in the office? I'll just do it with you. Efficiency. Maximize. Understand. Network and grow. Make it work. All right? Believe in you guys. See you guys next Thursday. Everybody have a question. Okay? And we'll go from there. Have a great weekend, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Stay blessed, stay smart, stay humble, stay compassionate, stay loving, and give. Doesn't matter what anyone does to you, no matter what they do, no matter what happens, Don't let people change who you guys are because you're all good people. Maintain that. Okay? All right, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.